So what I want to do today is I want to try to tell the story of how we got where we are today and what the future looks like. And what I want to do is, based on your guys' experience, you guys are all builders, developers, people who are doing really cool things in the heat reuse space. When we first started mining, when we first got Bitcoin mining, it was on computers. It was on your CPU, and you could literally plug it in. It wasn't necessarily easy, but you could do it at home. You start transgressing through the cycle, and in 2017, we started getting these form factors that were very prohibitive for home miners. This started to get a lot of people, they really didn't want to do it anymore because it wasn't easy to do. So then you have somebody like Zach Baumsta who developed the Loki board. And this board allowed us to start tricking our miners into working off of 110 volts. And this opened up a huge expanse of the space so that people like these guys here could start developing in the home heat reuse, the small scale mining side of things. So I think we'll start with Kevin. Kevin, you're building Altair. Altair right now is working on a 100 terahash, 120 volt system. Could you tell us from your experience just like what this has looked like going from early mining to not being able to mine at home very easily to today we have the Loki rigs and we've got more configurations coming out?
Yeah, I think the Loki rig is just, it's done an incredible amount of help to home miners. I have a home as well and a wife and children. And we have a strict no ASIC policy in the house. That's why we're in an outbuilding now. But I can tell you from my experience, I don't know, 5 years ago, putting that first machine in the garage and it's screaming loud. This is not going to work right away.
Nope.
But what the Loki's done is that 100 terahash machine is just kind of a hack we recently did, so it's not anywhere near production status. But the Loki rig has allowed us to take Urlacher's build and incorporate it into a nicer shell to make it a little more form factor and wife acceptable. And it's been incredible to see the space grow.
Absolutely. And kind of the same question to you, Dwight. You're currently working on a design similar, I would say it's similar to the HeatBit, a little bit same but different. But from your experience, what are some of the things that you've learned through this journey of building this device?
Yeah, so shout out to Zach, he's the GOAT. He created the Loki and the Nord board to help the plebs be able to mine from their 110, 120 volt outlets. So what we're doing on Unbound is we're trying to take the old generation, 3 or 4 generations removed hardware. We're trying to make super cheap form factor fitting type space heaters, right? The low-hanging fruit that Tyler was talking about during his opening remarks. And we're trying to just go and place those in homes where electrical rates are low while they don't really have access to natural gas. That's kind of the sweet spot. And we do differ from HeatBit quite a bit. I love what HeatBit's doing, but we kind of feel that their business model is lacking in the way that it doesn't quite reach the normie market, right? HeatBit is an $800 heater. It's probably going to be mostly Bitcoiners who buy that. We're trying to break into the normie market, and our big catch in our business model is we do place these heaters for free. So we try to build the cheapest heater possible. We place it for free, and then we do like an 80-20 or so split where we keep 80 of the mined Bitcoin and then pass off like a rebate to the homeowners. So yeah, I guess the biggest way we differ from HeatBit as far as hardware is we try to go as cheap as possible. We 3D printed our first beta units, all just Zach Animal 3D printed almost all of them in his house with like 10 printers. But in the future, we do hope to upgrade to better manufacturing and higher scale type output.
Yeah, it's this iterative process. You've seen this with the Bit Chimney, with their metal case. You've seen this with other devices that we're building. It starts in a vacuum and then slowly goes from there. What are some of the lessons that you've learned? Some of the things that the audience here can take away from your experience?
I would say a big lesson that we've learned is that because we are reusing these hash boards from mostly Bitmain, and we're even looking at WhatsMiner, but these hash boards weren't made exactly for our use case. And so we're taking hash boards with the big, aluminum extruded heat sinks, and they're kind of inline heat sinks, so they need a good amount of pressure, and that means you need to get a pretty good inline fan that has a high pressure capability, and it's not quite as quiet. So something we can kind of look to, Canaan, right, put out this new miner. It's kind of like a floorboard type form factor, right? And so their heat sinks are not inline, right? They're very shallow heat sinks that don't require that much pressure, and therefore their fans can be a lot quieter. Like, that's kind of a form factor we would want to work towards, right? And we have to just work with what we got, right? We're using this hardware. And so lessons, like I said, would be that there's a certain point where you just can't get fans any quieter. If you want to pull the heat off, like, you're just going to have to deal with a little bit of heat until you have the resources to build your own boards from the ground up.
Yeah. Real quick, you guys, we are going to be answering some questions at the end. I'll be asking them. So if you go to poll.denver.space, #small, if you have any questions, you can enter it there. They'll pull up on my screen, and I'll be able to answer them for you. So, Neil, I want to move over to you. You are doing a bunch of different things, building hot water heater. Well, I mean, I don't know. Did you build the water heater from that M64?
No, not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Still working on all that. Yeah, and it's kind of ironic because the way I got into Bitcoin mining was through, I was flipping houses, so I had vacant condos and I live in Minnesota, so I needed to heat them. So I was getting free S9s because they were valueless at the time. And then I realized one day that they were paying my mortgage and the electric bill. And I mean, it doesn't take a genius to realize you're going to start scaling that as hard and as fast as you can. So I did that, and then it was all just about hash rate. And I really see it going full circle again with the heat becoming a very useful part of the Bitcoin mining. And with the hydro, I mean, there's just so many uses for hot water that's kind of where I'm experimenting now. And yes, a home hot water heater.
Well, what really excites me is when I first got into this, I was hearing stories that, like, you can't get water up to 110, 120 degrees. And I saw your Twitter post just the other day, 186 degrees. So, I mean, we're not quite at boiling yet with something like that, but that's incredible because that's a water heater without a buffer tank.
Yeah, that's very useful water. I mean, the things you can use it for. I actually know a guy with these M64s. He's going to be running a laundromat, and that's where he's going to get his hot water from down in Alabama. So I'm pretty excited to see what he comes up with. And it's just as easy as dropping a sump pump in a pool of water, and there you have a hot tub. Just as easy as that. So, and then you guys talking about the Can-Am baseboard heaters. Conventional baseboard heaters now in homes are hot water. So electric hot water in a lot of cases, if not a boiler, but that can all be replaced. That's all stuff that hot water is very useful.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's very exciting. I remember my first conversation with Tyler. We were talking about these chips and the thermal variances in the chips and what we can do once we start getting water to boil or just a liquid to boil. We can start doing some really crazy things. And I think that the Canaan heater is a perfect stepping stone into that era of Bitcoin mining when we start seeing large scale manufacturers building out products for us. Because right now we're small tinkerers. We're just developing things in our basements, in our garages, in our shops, and we don't really have access to manufacturing. We don't have access to these large industrial bases. So when that starts to happen, I think that we start to see them focusing more on the heat side of it versus the efficiency side of it. And that's something that I'm really excited about. I want to kind of have this conversation about this narrative right now in the Bitcoin community as a whole. You talk to Bitcoiners who aren't really in the know about Bitcoin mining, and they say, well, home mining is not profitable. If you want to be a profitable Bitcoin miner, you have to be mining on a large scale. You have to have hundreds, thousands of machines in a warehouse, and you have to have really good electrical prices. What are some of the challenges, and I'll let any one of you take it, what are some of the challenges that are being challenged, or what are the narratives that are being challenged around here, and how are we pushing back against this?
Well, excuse me. I really like the rebate idea. When it comes to if you're using the heat for something, even if you're not break even, you're getting a rebate check at the end of every month when your electric bill is due, and it's not necessarily anything other than offsetting what you would already be spending.
Yeah, you're double spending the electrons that you're buying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not waste heat.
Yeah, and I would just add. Lost my train of thought. Would you repeat that question?
Well, so I'm trying, there's a narrative in Bitcoin right now to the uninitiated that Bitcoin mining is not profitable unless you're on a
Right.
large scale.
I would add that it's all about that energy arbitrage, right? If you find that target market and these people are heating with propane, and they could actually be saving money just by switching to electrical heat. There are markets out there like that. It's all about finding those markets, getting people informed, and then helping them get the hardware in their house so that they can switch over to heating with electric. And then it's just gravy on top of that if they get a little rebate at the end.
Part of that challenge, I think it's great that you can reuse the heat, but in the home environment, it's the cost. Like because there's so few market, manufacturers, and the cost is so high on these machines. I think that the more people come in, the more they're creating, it'll drive the cost down of the unit, and it'll be more affordable.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest hurdle right now for most people, even Bitcoiners,
Yeah.
is you're strapped with this huge, a water heater, $600.
Yeah. You're gonna spend
The
what, 10, 12
M64
grand?
is $4,500, and that's not including the piping and the pumps and stuff.
It's coming. I think it's coming. Another concern of mine is, especially we sell a lot of bid access, and the market participant is not the same market participant as we are. They're not going to spend the time. I mean, you give any normal person a Bitcoin miner or one of our products and have them hook it up. It's just more difficult. So I think that there's room for improvements in some of the setup process or the education. I'm not sure where it's at, but I think that's the one challenge that the industry has as well. They're not going to. Somebody else isn't going to build out this water heater like Schnitzel did. It's not happening.
Yeah, even on the low-hanging fruit we talk about, just space heaters, it's still a little bit of a challenge just to get it in there, get it hooked up to the customer's Wi-Fi, and then make sure it's synced with the pool and running. It's not seamless yet, and that's something we need to work on.
Yeah, it definitely needs work. I think it'll get there. I just think it's a matter of time. It's a matter of just more developers and builders making it easier for the normies.
And when you say the narrative about at-home Bitcoin mining not being profitable, that's just a recycled narrative. And yes, it is probably true right now, but it was also true when people were paying the shipping to send me free S9s because they were so valueless, because at-home mining was not profitable. And then, like I said, then all of a sudden it was paying my bills for me because it's just cyclical. And I think at-home mining will be a crazy bull run again, just like it has been in the past, and we've seen it.
Yeah, and my favorite thing is this idea of open source. I mean, we're not developing code, but what we are is developing hardware. We're taking something that is given to us and we're building on it. We're iterating upon it in our own little places, communicating with each other in this type of setting today, and that allows us to further these improvements, and that gives us these step function improvements on the products that we're building. So it is something that I'm really excited to see how this starts to play out in the future. Neil, we talk a little bit about the BitX. Something that I love about the BitX is, we talk about that $4,500 price tag for the M64s. The BitX is $200. I know it's $200 for 1 terahash, 1.2 terahash, but if you build a hydro system like you've built on your BitX, you're in it maybe $400. And after you do that, you learn the ins and outs of how this hydro system works, and that allows you to scale up to an S19, an S21, an M64. Can you just kind of highlight some of this?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a cool looking desk toy that also is a good training model for understanding what exactly is happening with the flow of water, how is it cooling and why is it cooling, and yeah, it's not that particular model is not a usable heat source, but
You could have
but
300
it's
to go.
fun. It's fun, and people have their little Zen gardens on their desk. I have a little hydro BitX on mine.
Yeah, I've seen even I don't think he's here today, but I'm blanking on his name because there's so many things going on today, but he just took a bit axe in a jar, a 4-gallon or a gallon jar of immersion bit cool oil, and just stuck it in there. And he says, "This is my hand warmer for the countertop." So he just sits around the tank and he just puts the bit axe in there. So I mean, there's really cool things that you can do, and you can just play around with it. It's really fuck around and find out at the end of the day, and you can do it much more cheaply than buying these really large models.
And if you have a desktop fountain or just a little decorative fountain anywhere in your house, those cool great. I've hooked some bit axes onto those, and they're pretty cool.
Yeah. I've got a question here that I'm going to ask. And again, any questions that you guys want to know about, small scale mining, these guys are doing some really cool things. I actually want to give you some time to talk about some of the things that you're doing. Kevin, maybe let's start with you. What is Altair doing? What are you trying to solve for in the space? And what are some of the next things that you're working on?
Yeah, so our goal is home miners. So we're trying to put miners in people's homes affordably, make it easier, and providing support for the people that just don't have the experience or the training, and they have somebody to reach out to instead of ordering from China and you get this machine and then you don't know what to do with it. So we've started kind of with we built the bit chimney, was in two terahash models. We have the K Pro and then the T21. We used to be S21, but they're out of boards now, but the T21 works just as well. And we're working on kind of fixing that up and making it a little bit more, putting a thermostat in it and kind of increasing little display screen and more control integration, possibly integration with your any other home automation. That's pretty much what we've been focused on the last year is updating that and getting that out to the market.
Yeah, and at Unbound, what are we seeing? I mean, I know that the heater's not quite ready yet, or am I wrong there?
It's ready in a way. It's a beta unit. It still has its problems, but we have some out there in the field. We have a little over a petahash of them out there in people's homes.
Petahash.
Out in Montana, my business partner Clay is out there building that network. I'd say if Altair's trying to build pretty high gen type heaters, they're trying to go for a more Ferrari, and we're trying to build a Camry. Mm-hmm. Right? We're trying to build super low cost. Like I said, 4 gen removed. Right now we're doing S19s, and we're just trying to get the ROI to be as favorable as possible, and we're just trying to stick them, like I said, for free. Our business model really is we want this to scale to plebs who have already maxed out their own power in their home, and they want to go and easily put it in their friends and families' homes and actually build a network that's distributed, right, so that they can then they're not stuck at that limit of their own home's power, right? They can easily put it in their friends and families' homes, and they can build their terahash and build their network. And I think ultimately that's like the sweet spot, kind of small to medium scale. Like if you have a savage entrepreneur pleb who wants to build it out to his entire community and have 100 homes he's running in, he can do that. If you want to just keep it to your family, you can do that. But ultimately, right now we're just trying to prove it out so that we can have the hardware ready and then start selling to plebs who then want to build out their network.
Mm-hmm. So it's just like building and iterating off of this, giving it to people so that they can play with it, mess around with it. I think this is great just because also you're getting the uninitiated into Bitcoin mining, and from that stance is like to put your hands on something, to feel it, to see it work, gives you a better idea of what Bitcoin is. A lot of people think Bitcoin is this magic internet money when it is, and it doesn't exist in meat space. But then you look at the electrical infrastructure, the hardware, the development that's going into it. There is a physical, tangible thing that is tied to Bitcoin, and that is the hardware.
Exactly. In the early days, for the normies, like we want there to be a experienced pleb who can kind of hold their hand, who can install in their house, and then show them, look, this is saving you money, and then from there that could be the Trojan horse that leads them to be like, all right, what is this Bitcoin thing?
I completely agree. Dwight, we have a question for, not Dwight, I apologize. Neil, we have a question for you. So how does this scale to, oh wait, hold on, I apologize. Had a question, now it's gone. How does this scale to residential? ASICs are expensive to make. It is only feasible with retrofitted old miners that aren't profitable. But then what about Canaan? Do small scale device makers think retrofitting is the way?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer, to be honest. I think it's too soon to tell. I think it's early. 2017, Bitmain did have a space heater. I think it was a prototype. It just didn't come out. It didn't. I don't know. The market obviously wasn't ready, but I think that now, seeing Canaan coming out with their product after all of us tinkerers have been doing it for years is a good sign.
Yeah. I just read recently the article that you have on Altair talking about all these different small desktop mini miners throughout the ages.
Yeah, that's when I realized that they actually had one in 2017 when I was doing all the research trying to find all of these small desktop miners, because that's how everything started, right? And then it progressed into commercial, and then now it seems like I call it the renaissance of Bitcoin miners or desktop miners, because now it's going back to the small stuff, and I found that interesting. That's why I dug in and spent quite some time to find that out.
Yeah, I was very interested to know like how many iterations have been done. I didn't realize that there were so many failed projects.
I didn't either.
And why do you think that the BitAxe is the one that just happened to succeed?
I think it's timing. I think that it's just natural timing. I think that Bitcoin's been around long enough. There's been enough cycles through that people are more familiar with it, and marketing and timing, that'd be my guess.
Interest and aesthetics, they're cool.
They are.
They're cool, and there's a lot more interest in it now. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that one.
Yeah, one thing I think is also helpful is you talk about timing. Last year around June, someone found a block, and I've spoken with Scott many times, and one of the things he said, he's like, we didn't know if this thing would work. We had no idea if it was actually going to work, and then someone found a block, and the entire market exploded.
Yeah, explosion.
It was a huge explosion.
You can't keep up. They can't make them fast enough. That's how the market's just.
No, they're buying boards from you just to desolder them and build them together. And actually, a little bit of info is that they're no longer making BitAxes from the Bitmain chips anymore. So they're going to be moving away from the S21s, moving away from the S19s, and NVIDIA has a bunch of chips that are rolled, and this means that we can actually start doing a manufacturing assembly line process, which actually will increase exponentially the amount of BitAxes that we can bring online. So that's something that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's been incredible just to see the demand for them. It's wild.
Yeah. So Neil, when I want to kind of stay on this track of BitAxe, this Hydro BitAxe, you have a kit that you're selling, correct?
Yeah.
So where do the people go to get that? I mean, it's $150 for the fan, the cooler, and the pump.
The water block, the hose, the radiator fan combo, and the pump, and all the parts to it. The same way I've always sold everything, just on my Twitter.
So go to his Twitter, Ronin Miner, get one. I highly recommend this, and I will be doing a lot of videos as well in my new show that I'm trying to get up and running. I want to show people the whole idea of building these projects. And so part of it is we'll be getting that system from you, putting it together, and just documenting the entire process.
I was going to say, yeah, I'd like to see people start getting it as a kit. Like right now, mainly the only people that want it are, except for Kevin, when I sent him one, he gets stuck with
I got the prototype. I got to fix it and put it together and complain.
Yeah, but I mean, assembly is part of the process when you're doing things like this. That the majority, like we've talked about, is retrofitting something else that's already existing. Yeah, and then that brings me back around again to the M64, like you were talking about, the price difference in it, and it's something that you're going to have to, on an individual level, prove to people why it's worth $3,000, $4,000 up front compared to going and buying a $600 water heater.
Yeah. And I think, again, once we see the use case, once we can start showing people the numbers, it's like, hey, this is how much it costs in electricity. This is how much Bitcoin you can mine from it. And by the way, it's KYC free Bitcoin, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's another thing we didn't touch on. It's KYC free. Yeah, you might pay a premium, if you're mining for 8 cents, but it's yours. You're not buying it from a third party.
I saw something the other day where someone said something on Twitter about how they were going to shut down Bitcoin mining, and I commented on there, It's just a water heater, sir. I'm just heating my water. What do you mean? Like, I'm not mining Bitcoin.
It's not connected to the internet.
Exactly.
Yeah, and anywhere that uses hot water, ASIC chips make great heating elements.
It's true. It's true. And this whole idea of being able to boil water, is like, I think going back to the step function improvements, you've got the Loki board, you've got the Nord board, you've got the BitX, you've got these step function improvements. The next big expansion in this universe, in this building industry that we're all in, the small heat reuse industry, is when you can start to make steam. Once we can make steam, it changes the whole narrative around energy production and generation, and I think that that's something really exciting as well.
Yeah, that design's going to have to come with the custom silicon layer, but I think that opportunity is there, right? You're going to need some big players to kind of get into that, but I think there's just too much to be gained, so I think it's going to happen eventually, right? We just got to keep our eyes open and be ready for it.
Yeah.
The fact that we're all here for this is also a big thing. This is the first one, heat reuse anything I've been to.
Yeah, and there's
big
going to be
deal.
more after this. Like, I think the turnout here was big. I remember when Cody and Tyler were telling me about it, I was like, oh, well, it's going to be huge. Everybody's going to love this. And look, we have this entire building completely filled. All of you are here for a reason. You're interested about heat reuse and how you can integrate Bitcoin mining into that. And no matter what part of the journey you're on, you're here and you're trying to learn. And I think that's the most important part.
Immersion alone, 3 years ago, you'd be at a Bitcoin conference and people didn't even care to hear about it. You'd be at a Bitcoin mining conference and nobody cared about immersion.
Yeah, and last year at the the mining and I forgot what's the name of the one in Miami. It's full. Look at how many immersion guys there are and how many hydro companies there are now in play.
Yeah, and he's not on the panel, but he's here in the room. Ryan from CryoBlock or CryoBite, he's developing an even better product. I mean, immersion's awesome, but immersion is so expensive. Going back to like the barrier of entry, you need the tank, you need the oil, you need the pumps, you need all these different heat exchangers and whatever it is. But to integrate the cooling system directly on the chips, direct to chip cooling is huge. And we've seen these products in the past, and they've just lacked they've left a lot to be desired. And now with the R&D that they've put in to the CryoBlock itself, I'm really excited to see where the space opens up, just because we can now have more efficient ways to cool. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think we wait around and find out and see what all these awesome guys are building.
For sure. So, we've got about 17 more minutes. All of these people in this room, they want to know about heat reuse. They want to learn about heat reuse, but maybe they don't know where to start, how to get involved. So can we just, based on you guys' experience, one by one, what are some pieces of advice? What are some things to watch out for? How can these guys get involved?
There's not any one place to go. There's a lot of people in here. There's a lot of YouTube channels now of heat reuse guys. Somebody needs to make a list at some point, and it's been on my list of things to do to post on my site. I started in the Home Mining Wizards Telegram group with Steve Barber's group, and that's where I met probably, half a dozen people in this building. And that's been a huge resource. I think that one of the greatest things about the Bitcoin miners is we'll all help each other. We're not enemies, we're all friends.
My biggest thing I would say is just start tinkering. Like, BitX is a great place to start. Then you can level up to an S9, then you can level up to an S19.
Yep.
And then you just got to learn the ins and outs of actual ASICs and mining first. And then once you have that, then it's somewhat simple to then take the step and then say, all right, now I'm going to pull the heat off and I'm going to start using it usefully.
Go break stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally just get some cheap, crappy hardware and break it open and see how it ticks.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say exactly. I would say get a cheap S9s. They're almost free again. Get one of those. Then you'll realize even something that small, the heat that you're going to be dealing with, just plug it in a garage or something. They're fairly inexpensive to run even. Well, no, maybe they cost a couple $100, don't they?
Probably 100 something.
But yeah, it's an education.
Underclock.
Yeah, there you go.
Cheapest tuition
And
you'll ever pay.
you'll understand the heat, and you'll understand that all miners have had that in different scales of heat as a problem. And then you'll start trying to vent it out of your garage, or you'll want to deal with it, and then you'll realize, well, if I'm already concentrating it somewhere, why don't I concentrate it for something that I can use it for?
I also have a recommendation too. At my meetup, I live in Florida, so I'm a heat LARP. I don't really use the heat reuse, but I am involved in the space. But we do we have an Urlocker that we pass around. At first, it was an S9, and it's kind of a hard sell to your meetup people who want to take home this S9 because it's expensive, and you're not going to get enough money to get paid out. But now the Urlocker has made it possible where it makes sense for the meetup member to take it home with them for a few days, a week, whatever. And then the funny thing is, the last guy that borrowed it, it was cold one night. So he's like, I didn't have to turn my heat on. I just thought that was hilarious. It's normally 80 degrees in the winter.
That right there, I mean, we know we can use a Bitcoin miner for heat, but I plugged an S9 in last January. I plugged an S9 in. I have not turned my furnace on since.
That's great.
It's been incredible. And Antoine from 256 Heat, he helped me develop my system. And my favorite thing about the entire thing was when I built it, my wife goes, "That is really cool." And I said, I'm
Wow,
fucking
that's a
winning
winner,
over
yeah.
here. You know what I mean? Like, you guys know, like,
amazing.
getting the wife on board is very difficult. So that was really cool. So finding the wife approval factor, finding ways to get her on board with this just gives you a lot more passion, gets you a lot more excited about it. Was the panel for wife approval?
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
I don't know, Tyler.
Maybe next year.
Definitely. Well, guys, I mean, last words.
Go break stuff. That's the best thing I can tell you. I've broken lots of stuff, and I still do.
Get your significant other involved, because it's going to take a lot of your time to do all the things you want to do, and you're going to become obsessed with it. So it's great if they are too.
Looks like this is the wife panel.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, go break stuff. Start in your own home, and if it really piques your interest, start scaling. Start trying to put it in your family's homes.
This stuff is addicting, guys. You get that S9, you start playing around with it, and you're going to quickly want to scale up. So go to Altair, get yourself an S19. Go to Unbound Network, get yourself a space heater. If you want to play around with the BitAxe Hydro, talk to Neil. I mean, it's a great opportunity to just learn, but you're going to get addicted to this stuff really quickly. Do we have any questions?
Oh. Well, yeah, we should do some kind of lottery system or something.
Yeah,
We've got a couple
if you want to
extra
give
units.
me one, I will take one home. I will always do that. But
We want to pique some interest, and anyone who could make a good case to why they would be a good network owner, we're all ears.
any questions? No? Okay. Well, I mean, I think we can wrap it up there. I mean, no point in belaboring it. Heat reuse is amazing. Small use case. Tyler or Travis, you've got a question?
I want to know when you're going to modify your jerky making assembly.
I'm asked that a lot. However, you don't want the dirty air coming off my miners. They're in a barn. I live in a swamp.
Just a little salty, man. It gives it flavor. Awesome. Well, yeah.
So the heat that's generated off the miners is coming from the circuit boards, which
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know the answer of what kind of CF.
I think the heat is low grade enough to where it doesn't really inflame any of the chemicals. I think the biggest worry for us, at least, is that we clean them well enough, because a lot of them are bought from China
Guys
and other
with the barn.
places where they just were not cleaned, were not maintained.
Your house.
All that kind of breaks into like another area of conversation, which we probably shouldn't go into. But the low grade heat actually creates heat, which is different from Nicron heating element. It actually isn't like dry heat. It doesn't dry out your house and make your nose like all dry. It's actually a different type of heat that a lot of people have said, like, wow, like for the first time I'm not having trouble breathing during the winter because I'm heating with these miners. It's just something to think about. Another little point to push when you're trying to market these.
And this is you're specifically talking about air-cooled miners. When you start getting to something like the cryo block, that's completely different. But I have heard this before, is that there was an issue with the S9s, I believe it was. Well, it's been talked about before. The S9s did have a vapor that, when the chips got hot enough, it started to emit that, and that is something that needs to be taken into account. And I think that's why moving away from air-cooled miners is so important. I mean, because then we're not worried about it.
Yeah, as Zach Bombs says, you don't want to let out the magic smoke. The magic smoke is the stuff that you shouldn't be inhaling, but that should stay. The genie should stay in the bottle as long as you don't get too hot.
For sure. Any more questions? All right. Well, I want to thank these gentlemen for being here, for all the work that they're doing in the space. We couldn't be where we are without the work of all three of you and many others in this room. We owe all of you a debt of gratitude. We owe Tyler, Cody, and the event organizers here at the space as well for putting this amazing meetup conference. Summit together. I'm very grateful for them because, as you know, we touched on, it's a lot easier to get into this space and this community than other communities. And there are so many people in here willing to talk to you for hours about what they're building. So
Autistically,
exactly. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Trevor.